We start putting up security here. All right, guys, I think obviously not the result we wanted in Baton Rouge Saturday night. And look, we're talking the last couple of weeks here. Reality is we're talking about one more stop. We're talking about, finishing one more possession. Certainly had our opportunities. And there are things that we can do better. I want to compliment the players relative to the state of mind, the mindset. I thought we were ready to compete, in particular early. I think you guys will have more questions about that. But reality is here we got to turn the page really quickly and get ready for a good Missouri team. Sometimes when you're going through trials, troubles, hardship, adversity, whatever you want to call it. Just talking with the staff and the players earlier today, I think it's critical at this point that, especially for our young players, that we are a good example. I was talking to the veterans in the accountability group. Don't avoid it. I think you got to lean into it. You got to attack it. You got to embrace hard. I think there's an element here to any great competitor, anyone that's had success in life. They can tell you their story and they can talk about the things that they experienced that were challenges. It's essentially training. Much like you train strength, train endurance. You're not born tough. You're not born with endurance. You're not born. And I think it's a test of your faith that allows you to develop faith. I do think it's a test of your character. It allows you to develop character. And I think challenge presents opportunity. It's important that we are action-oriented, solution-oriented for our players, and you go make it happen. I think sometimes you get in these situations, you don't want to let things happen. You want to make it happen. So got a model for our young people. Every role matters. We use the terms make the difference, make an impact, and be the difference. And those are two that are more important than ever right now. So Mizzou's got a good football team. They play complementary football. Eli's done a nice job there in year 4. They've gotten incrementally better. They're getting good quarterback play. They've got some significant matchup players like most teams in our league do. And, I do think they've been opportunistic and they've won games. I think LSU and Georgia being their 2 losses. So good football team, tough place to play. Going to be important for our guys to have a good week. And just listening to our guys earlier, I think they're about the work, and I think there's an attitude that I respect from that group. So what questions do we got?
After review, what were some of the things that maybe stood out to you about your defensive performance against LSU, issues, things that went wrong, and maybe what's correctable or most correctable moving forward?
Yeah, no, I do think, I think it's much like every week. I think it is communication, it's alignment. I think that there are fundamentals and techniques that can improve, playing with good eye discipline, good leverage. LSU contributes to some of that, right? So I think obviously the quarterback's ability to escape and extend, and even when we kept him in the pocket and played coverage, he was able to get through the progression. We won some matchups, we lost some matchups. I do feel like the effort was good. I mean, when I watch all 3 parts of our team, I do feel like the effort was good. So some of it is very specific. There are times where we can help the players, and there's times where players have opportunities. I think it's a combination of all those things.
Is another mobile guy. I mean, is it too easy to say you just try to overemphasize taking that away, or how does it? Are there adjustments that can be made schematically to scrambling quarterbacks? Because there have been a lot that have victimized you over the last couple of years.
Yeah, they victimize most people they play against, not just the Gators, right? So, the athletic quarterback, depending on the skill around him, and your strengths, can be an issue. This guy for sure has the ability on third down to escape and extend, make some plays with his feet. There's no doubt about it. He's also playing really efficiently, in my opinion. They're doing a good job using their skill. They play with balance. They do a good job with the run concepts. There is some familiarity here because of our past experience with Eli. So I do think they do a good job. And the quarterback has been at he's essentially the foundation of the efficiency they've had on offense.
Stands out to you about Cody Schrader?
Yeah, low to the ground, pretty heavy, 5'9", 214. The guy's got good instincts and vision. I think he can get small, plays with pad level and power. Ultimately, I think he's a guy that's been productive as a running back for a long time. And I think they do a good job conceptually creating running lanes for him, and then he's able to maximize those. So he's been a productive player. It's a great story. I love stories like that. I've got respect for it. And certainly, he's part of the challenge when you play Mizzou. For the most part, he carries the load.
You've gone up against, I think this will be your fourth time against Eli, but maybe a different wrinkle with their new offensive play caller this year. How different does the offense look?
Fourth time, huh?
One here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about seasons, forgot we played them twice that year. Yeah. I think there is some. I think it's really systematic on offense. I think they do a good job. They play with balance. They're committed to a run game that is well designed. I think the new coordinator has implemented some concepts in the throw game. They're doing a good job using the skill they got. I think the back's a good player. They're getting pretty good play from a couple tight ends. And then I think their front is playing well. I think that gets overlooked. And then the skill players, the receiver group has, they're all a little bit different, right? And I think that they do a good job utilizing that group.
When you look at the SEC, 2 coaches fired in the last 2 days, one of them with a crazy buyout, one of them without even a year on the job. Is that like life in the SEC at this level? You just got to that comes with the territory?
Yeah. I think it's been that way in this league for a long time, right? So, and look, I think, you know what you sign up for. I think we all do. But, it's part of life, right? No different, The AP decides they're going to fire you one day. It comes with the territory, right? So, we all have a job to do, right? And ultimately, I think you view it as a challenge. You view it as an opportunity. And look, I think these are well thought out decisions. You don't just flip a coin and decide to be the head coach of the Florida Gators. I think for me, you go into it with a strategy and a plan. You adapt, you evolve, you adjust. And we're in the middle of our process, right? So, it's been happening for a long time that way.
To that, you've gotten resources commitment clearly. What's your confidence in the time commitment with Florida? You're in the middle of it. Do you feel confident in the timeline?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we knew it wasn't going to be easy, And look, I think you have to go into it. You develop a skill set. You're equipped. These same things I'm talking about relative to our players, I can tell you I wouldn't be up here without going through a lot of tough stuff to some degree, right? So you're equipped with faith. You're equipped with discipline, your ability to come up with solutions. And you got to be tough-minded. You got to have endurance. You got to be able to persevere. You got to surround yourself with really good people, And I think ultimately You know, it's not like you thought we're going to run the table the first year. And, you know, I mean, it's just, it is what it is, right? So I think we have to continue to be action-oriented, solution-oriented. And I do believe in what we do and how we do it. You know, I mean, I think there's always adjustments that are required. But we have tremendous leadership here, top down. We have great resources. We have a tremendous product to sell. This place has done it before, and I'm firmly confident that we're capable of doing it again.
Coached a lot of really good receivers. I've been around them, recruited them. Ricky's closing in on 1,000 yards here. It hadn't been done since 2002 here. What kind of season does he have? I mean, I wouldn't say it's quiet, but I mean, he's really putting up some pretty impressive performances one after the other.
Yeah, no, Ricky's, I don't want to say underrated because I think he's pretty highly regarded out there. You know, I know the National Football League feels that way. You know, Ricky, in my opinion, is a product of a lot of work. He's highly skilled. He can win at the line of scrimmage. He can win at the top of the route. He has good awareness. You know, he understands coverage and leverage. And he's run routes. He's to a point in his career where he has a good understanding of what, you know, we're trying to do conceptually. You know, and he's creative. His hand selection is outstanding. And I think he's going to test a lot better than people anticipate. You know, this guy's a 40-inch vertical. He's short shuttle, L drill. Those numbers will be impressive. You know, he'll run well. He's bigger than you think, you know. So, Ricky, he's up there. You know, I've coached some good players. I'll tell you what I really appreciate about Ricky Pearsall is the consistency in the person that shows up every day, right? His attitude, his energy, his leadership. He's a tough dude, and he's not, you know, he has values. He's equipped with some things that allow him to be really consistent as a performer. So he'll be a great pro. He'll play for a long time.
Billy, has the portal changed, do you think, the patience that schools have with their coaches because there's so many players coming and going? And how does that change perspectives, do you think, on patience with coaches?
You know, I think it's just more coverage, right? It's more drama. You know, I think it's just another element to strategy, right, relative to what you're going to do. You know, I think, and it's new, right? So there's not a huge sample size of evidence relative to what works and what doesn't work. I do think that, you know, our game continues to evolve, and it's important that you keep up. You know, I think there's an element to that, you know. But ultimately, we've got conviction about how we do it. We're gonna do. I think it's much like the National Football League. In my opinion, you're talking about you want to build your team through the draft, you know, and you want to each offseason you're evaluating the depth on your team, the impact players, the immediate. Where do you need immediate presence? And that's the NFL free agency model, right? So I think we're living in a world that's very much the same, you know. So you throw NIL into that equation, and now you're living in a salary cap model, right? You know, the problem is we have no contracts. You know, our drafted players have no contracts. You know, I'd like to know that we had them for 4 or 5 years. So the instability, you know, I think is magnified, you know, and I think that since when have college fan bases been patient? Okay, that's what I'd like to know, right? So, you know, everywhere I've been, the fan base is impatient in my life, you know, and I've got 2 brothers that are high school coaches. My dad coached high school football.
At what point do you have to start re-recruiting your own guys?
Yeah, I mean, I feel good about the player experience here. There's going to be attrition now, just so we all understand, right? I mean, that's a product of the environment that we've created at this level, right? So you used to anticipate, you know, a half dozen guys a year, and now you probably anticipate twice as many, right? So some of which you anticipate happening, some maybe you don't anticipate happening, right? So, you know, I probably would say if you're on the fence, you know, hey, maybe this is not the right place for you. But it'd be different if I didn't have confidence in the experience of the scholar athlete here. The player experience here, I think, is second to none. So when you start talking about the degree, the alumni network, the experiences that are available through GatorMade from a life skills player development standpoint, the resources that we have to offer from a facility standpoint, infrastructure standpoint, location, you know, game day, tough place to beat. So, you know, I think there's an element to that, you know, but I also think that life's pretty good at UF right now.
Your offense to this point, just how it's progressed to the year and kind of establish an identity?
Yeah, I think, you know, most weeks I'd like to have one or two more scores a game, you know, and I think ultimately I'm evaluating it by within the play, within the possession. I think we're sound, you know, in what we do. We have developed more consistency. You know, I think early on we had some issues, we had some struggles. I do think we've developed some consistency. We've also developed some players, some guys that were backups, that have gotten experience, that have improved, whether that's the two freshman tight ends or Jake Slaughter, or we get Cam Waits back. Trey Wilson gains confidence and gets experience, whatever the case may be. So I think players have improved. We're getting a little bit more consistency across the board, and that's allowed us to be a little bit more effective. So, we need to play better complementary football. You know, ultimately that's our issue, right? It has nothing to do with just one unit. You know, I think we have to put all parts of our team together. At this point where we're at, you know, that's the issue, right? It's the defense shows up and the offense doesn't, you know, and I'm not just week to week, but half to half, you know, or quarter to quarter, right? So consistency is what we're seeking. And I do think we need to continue to develop players, right? We need to see improvement from players. And we need to eliminate some of the mistakes that have nothing to do with the opponent. You know, I mean, I think that's my struggle. That's what I think about. You know, I mean, I think I can handle some of the matchups that we get positioned in, and, hey, look, it is what it is. But some of these things that we can help, you know, that's what I'm consumed with right now.
Kingsley and Devin missed the game the other night, and Austin was a little dinged up during. Could you provide an update on those guys? And when it comes to Kingsley and Devin having missed different periods of time this year, is there any consideration to shut them down at this point?
No. Devin's injury happened Thursday during practice. That's why it wasn't reported, right? So we're pretty transparent when it comes to injuries. Wednesday, you'll know where we're at. Between now and then, we're going to work on getting as many players available as we can.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
All right. You got it.